All right, babies. It's that time again. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a Saturday. Having trouble waking up. Man, I was laying in bed. I was reading Exodus 12. Oh, my gosh. All about the Passover lamb and putting blood on the posts. Oh my gosh. Ay, 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 ay. I mean, it makes sense as far as, aligning with Jesus as the spotless lamb slain before the foundation of the world, whose sacrifice is sufficient for covering the world's sin. Of course, that's the essential event of eternity. But I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, why a sacrifice? Why does Jesus have to die? Why are we killing lambs? And other parts of the story, just ridiculous. I mean, the whole justification for that is the blood on the doorpost is so that God knows not to kill the firstborn in those homes. But any other home, the firstborns are going to be killed. What? What are we talking about here? It just seems so I don't know what the word for it is. Atrocious. I don't know what to say about it. Except that we are caught in the middle of all of it. Because I'm absolutely convinced that Jesus is our access to God. Absolutely. Are there other ways of getting to God? Of course. But Jesus is the perfect way. The problem with that is we all have different ideas of who Jesus is and what he requires. But the good news is that because he's available and he loves us, and we know he loves us because of what he did in submitting himself to those 6 hours of torture, if not more, because there was torture before the cross. Supposedly he was on the cross for 6 hours. So there's torture before those 6 hours, so let's say it's 8 hours. 8 hours of torture. So we know he wasn't crazy, because his wisdom has been captured somewhat in the Bible, and unfortunately it's been mixed with other people's ideas. But for the most part, we know the words that are Jesus, that come from Jesus. How do we know that? Because they have the sound of otherworldliness. They don't sound like they're coming straight out of Judaism. Because if they sounded like they're coming straight out of Judaism, there would have been no need for Jesus. You could just have one of the Pharisees or Sadducees, or one of them would be known for their wisdom, and people would be following that person. But no, things needed to change. And that's why the words in the Gospels that sort of sound like that new world, new kingdom language, I think we pretty much know those are from Jesus, because people weren't elevated enough to come up with that kind of inspirational thinking. Not to mention the acts of transformation. So we know Jesus is the center of all things. We just might not understand why the cross, why the lamb, why all the killings, killing of the firstborn, and it's just so much killing in the Bible. It's just, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming me. And even today, if it would help God's purposes for me to be killed because I believe in him, then I'm perfectly willing to be put in that situation. But literally. But figuratively, all of us are called to be in that position of being killed, so to speak, every day, because our will has to die in order for his to come forth. And so the beauty of all of this is that I'm finding that God is so present to us through Jesus that all of these questions can they can all be taken care of later. They're not the most pressing thing. You feel like you are when you're reading the Bible, because you're reading it like, how does this make any sense? And then you get stuck in that mindset, right? And that's kind of how life is itself. It's like you see circumstances and you're like, well, this is ridiculous. And how can there be a loving God when this stuff is going on? And the answer to all of that is we are called to be co-creators with him. And the purpose, somehow, through the death of Jesus on the cross, that act gives us access to the power that God has to make a change in the world, so that we are equal. He wants us to be one with him. So he's sharing his power with us. He's sharing his love with us. He's sharing his essence with us, so that in the world, people can see the love of a creator God working through his primary creation. And so all of the other questions, they can be put aside. God can answer them whenever he feels he's ready. But for us, who's before us? We're going to love that person to health, love them to faith, love them to a life of purpose and meaning, That's what we're called to do. Look around and change what you see, baby. Because God's in you and he's dying to get out.